And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal, the full story, real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And welcome to Financial Fitness Friday. I'm Rich Russo, CFP, here with Danny Ratliff, CFP Squared. I think the biggest news of the day just came across my desk. Oscar Meyer is bringing back the Weinermobile. They first were calling it Frankmobiles. And there was an uproar to bring back the original name. But then someone spray painted on the side of the Weinermobile, "Don't kiss the meat." I have no idea what that means, because there is no meat on the Weinermobile. Plus, it's plant-based. Now, I don't know. That seems like big news. Why do you want to change the name from Weinermobile to Frankmobile? Like, that should be for Frankenstein or something else. So everybody was pretty much upset. This was the big news. Bringing it back.
Frankly, my dear.
I wonder if it's EV now.
The electric wiener?
Don't shrink the wiener. That would be This wiener's got no power. Well, let's keep going. Danny, you're next.
No, I'm not. No.
Speaking of things that are shrinking, the market has really been, I don't know. Mr. Powell really put the kibosh on the party. I mean, it takes a while for the market to get things. And September is notoriously a rough month. But, this possibly raising rates again issue. And we're going to talk about inflation in your portfolio and how it's important in your planning process later on. But obviously, the market might be paying attention, Danny, the bond market and the stock market, to the Fed saying we have maybe one more rate hike, even if they may not have one more rate hike. but that rates might be higher for longer, which is something Powell absolutely has to say.
Well, I think it gives him more bandwidth to make changes and adjustments, right? I mean, if you say, hey, we're going to go longer than anticipated, then you don't. Things things go better than if you say, hey, we are done. Market probably really likes it for a bit.
That'd have been nice for the market, boy. That would have been,
man.
we would have had a great day that day.
Yeah, but then when he actually does, if he needs to hike further down the road, it'll be that much more detrimental.
Well, the market, ticks him off. Like it ticked off the Oscar Meyer fans. Don't call it a Frankmobile. Because, I mean, again, every time he talks, the market goes higher. Or it doesn't listen to him. I mean, he's sticking to his guns with this mantra. And I think the market's finally starting to get it. That
I have a hard time with that. I mean, I agree and I don't.
With the Weinermobile or Powell? No, go ahead. Sorry. I told you I was going to throw him off today. I did it already. The show just started.
You've been hot dogging it since the
I'm
first
telling you,
minute of the
with
show.
mustard.
Yes.
No, go ahead. So what do you think?
Well, I think that it's probably more looking at, okay, look, he's going to be steadfast in what he's saying, and he's been very adamant in that, hey, we are not lowering interest rates right now. And I think that's still the message. Nothing has really changed. We anticipated that there's likely another rate hike this year. I think it's going to be data dependent. I mean, you have September 28th. You've got GDP revisions coming. I think there's a little bit of concern about government shutdown, what the overall financial implications of that, that can be debated.
Well, and the psychology of the consumer, because that's the
correct.
We're starting to see a freeze up in the animal spirits. I think that's more important, right? Overwhelming number of polls show that people are distressed financially, and it makes sense because if you want to talk about maybe neutral rates are higher forever, well, what about inflation? We know eventually inflation comes down. But we have a lot of our own policies to blame for what we're going through. And then we know that monetary policy is designed to tighten until something breaks, and then rates come down fast.
That's right. And he wasn't going to raise rates. I mean, if everybody can remember
Right.
that long ago, inflation's transitory. We are not going anywhere with interest rates, and then boom, went on the fastest rate hiking campaign we've seen. And it'll be very similar once we start the data starts to unravel. He's going to go the opposite direction. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I think the market, probably what it didn't like the most out of what's come out of the Fed meeting is that they're thinking 2 less hikes in 2024. I think that's probably more of the bigger news. But then again, I mean, he's got to give himself some wiggle room. So we're just going to have to follow the data, watch and see what happens at some point. And like you said, the consumer, I don't know that we see the job numbers like everybody would, like we've historically seen just because of where we've been and what's gone on. And at some point, inevitably, I think you do. But how long does that take as well?
True.
And then, Danny, this is Janet Yellen. I want you to understand, I've been saying inflation's transitory since like 2016 when you had a lot of hair.
Brent, what'd you put in his coffee today?
I don't know what he got into.
Maybe it's a lack of sleep.
It's that
It's
maple
the
syrup
lack
with
of
habanero
darn
pepper.
sleep. So keep this in mind. I think everybody's been surprised, including the Fed, about the unbelievable underlying momentum of the consumer. The consumer to continue to go out there and spend. So I looked at Darden's report yesterday. So Darden, which is one of my favorite companies, and they bought Ruth Chris, and I think they overpaid for it. I think they bought it at the wrong time. So their report, watch their transcript, Danny, and they're talking about how at these high-end restaurants, consumers are trading down. Like they buy this restaurant just at the very wrong time, right? And
So they buy it, then tell you how it's not doing well?
well, it's like people are still spending, but they're trading down in entrees, right? Compared to what? Olive Garden, which is continuing to kick butt because Olive Garden is fairly inexpensive. Like it's going to take a while to beat up on an Olive Garden before you stop going, I'm not going to eat any more breadsticks compared to like, $100 steak, right? So,
but $18 for a meal I think is still expensive. I mean, maybe that's just me.
well, yeah.
For a single entree?
In 1883, it was.
You're doing pretty good at $18.
$18. Where are you eating? You got to go through McDonald's for $18.
You don't eat out all that often these days, but
And actually, that's good because wherever you're eating, you're going to catch some sort of disease.
My wife and I, if we can get out of a restaurant for $30, I'm feeling good.
David Brooks, not one of my favorite writers for the New York Times, goes, no wonder people are upset. He was like at Newark Airport, and he paid $80 for him. He said he paid $80 for a hamburger.
Good night.
Okay, so he's complaining that this is what people are worried about. Meanwhile, you find out he had like about 30 drinks. Like the hamburger was like $14. So, yeah. Inflation is an issue, but why don't you go look at the receipt, buddy? Now, if I were him, I'd be drinking too. So, I would just say that you are starting to see, Danny, I think, is this consumer cooling down. Now, we probably have I think we have a pretty decent retail season for the holidays, but I think the overall momentum that we've been talking about is starting to grind, right? There's still so much cash out there from infrastructure and other things, but we know that consumer spending is most of the economy. And if the consumer animal spirit, you know how it starts. You tell one friend, they tell another. In other words, if things are feeling bad, I better cut back. We might continue to see that. It's already been like that in the Ratner, the Ratliff household was still not spending, but maybe we start to see the consumer cool off a little bit here. We'll see how it goes. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Two things in life you cannot avoid: death and taxes. Be better prepared for both with our next Candid Coffee on progression planning for a life well lived. Saturday, September 30th, with Danny Ratliff and Richard Rosso. We'll share how to prepare emotionally, financially, and pragmatically. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Progression Planning Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Saturday, September 30th, realinvestmentadvice.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets. And unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. Get started right now at the website, realinvestmentadvice.com, or simply call our toll-free number, 855-RIA-PLAN, or again, simply online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Small businesses are discovering that attracting and retaining top talent come down to more than just salary. In today's highly competitive job market, compensation is more than just wages. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, RIA Advisors Retirement Plan Consultant. Healthcare and retirement plans can make the difference in hiring and retaining the best employees. We can show you how to build an affordable, effective employment package that delivers true value for your workers and your business. Call me toll-free at 855-RIA-PLAN or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Bulls win in bull markets. Bears win in bear markets. Eagles soar above and take advantage of opportunity. Let us help you soar as you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
And we're back. So, Saturday, September 30th, we're going to be doing a Candid Coffee. Now, we'll tell you, we call it progression planning, and there's a reason for that, but this is really your estate planning process, your end-of-life planning. And I know it's a damper on your Saturday, but I will tell you, we present it in such a way that you'll be excited. I was going to say excited to die, but no, you'll be excited to get your estate plan done. Because we go through some of the qualitative, emotional hurdles that you go through when you should be looking at the process with a different perspective, through the eyes of the people you love. So we're going to go through the documentation you need, and a lot of people don't get it done, unfortunately. But I think there's a different spin on this that you will actually appreciate, and you will feel warm and fuzzy at the end, not cold and clammy as if you were in the morgue. So, tune in. Go to realinvestmentadvice.com and sign up. And we go through it. I promise we will make it palatable, is a good word, as we call it progression planning. And I'll share with you why I call it that when we go ahead to have this. We do have not as many people as we usually have. But again, this is a very segmented kind of Candid Coffee. But I do think you will learn something. But guess what? You may have relatives, friends, who have been hesitant to do an estate plan. They don't want to talk about it. You all figure it out when I'm gone. Have them sit in on this. Have them sit in this about the conversations that they need to have in a way that will make it easier for them. Because that's really what this is for more than anything else. You out there who actually do estate planning, you've done your plan, you feel good about it, you don't want to leave stress behind for the people you care about. You want to make sure your pets are taken care of and whatever it is. But for the people who are on the fence, because they don't want to approach it, those are the people that need to sit in on this. Or you might get something here from this Candid Coffee that you can share with friends and relatives who have been hesitant to do what's necessary. So I think that will give you some really great steps. So don't you think, Danny, I think we've handled the estate planning conversation in a way that makes it, I don't know, just easier to go through for people who have been hesitant and change the mirror it looks into, like the perspective of it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the problem is that most people, we only think about our death when we think about any type of estate planning. Instead of the legacy that you're trying to leave, what is the intent? What is the use of these funds? And to make it something good.
Yeah.
Can't avoid death and taxes. So let's at least prepare, right?
Yeah.
I think people are so much more prone to want and try to save money on taxes.
Yeah.
And pay as little as possible, which I'm right there.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing to do. You can do so smartly, legally, great. But the estate plan part is just something that's such a burden for most people.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate because there's so many good things that can come out of this. And so I think that having those conversations, getting ahead of it, and we're going to share some really good tips on how to do those things this next weekend. And that will be, I think, hopefully something you can all take from and maybe get a little bit better understanding of your own estate plan and give you some ideas as far as what you should or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, you got to break it down in your head, almost like be a ghost before you're a ghost. Like you got to look back and figure out what kind of damage you might create by not doing it. In other words, do you have do you have multiple children? What if you leave more money to one child than the other? What if one child's the executor? But you're going to let these cold, dead estate these estate documents do the talking for you. You don't want that. You want to do the talking, and you want to make sure everybody feels good. You don't want these rifts in the family after you're gone. And the fact is, when they think about you, they go, oh, yeah, Dad, he really messed that crap up, didn't he? Like, in other words, they'll go, oh, Dad, he took me fishing. He took me out to these places to go. We went on vacation. No! You're ruining your legacy. So think about it. I met with someone the other day, and she says, well, my mom, I tried to approach this subject with her. There's 3 siblings, and they're always battling it out. And she goes, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And those are the people we're trying to penetrate. Because if you don't talk about it, these siblings that are already having problems, you're going to make it worse.
Yeah. Well, first of all, just stop. I mean, is that what this is all about at the end of the day? I mean, you trying to get, access to whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part. So that's why it does push families like that away from having those conversations because they're like, screw it. You guys can deal with what I'm done. And then the problem's going to be much, much worse.
Much, much worse.
Yeah.
I know you say sometimes, well, I'm not going to be here, but your legacy, who you were, your memory, who you are to these people will change.
But your legacy is your children, right?
It is.
So if you have kids or it may be a philanthropic adventure, maybe a number of different things, right? But you need to think about this, especially if you have a family where these funds are intended to go, instead of creating strife and all the things that are associated with this when it's not done well. And if you already have that problem, it's probably time for you to sit down and take the reins and say, hey, this is not how this is going to go. Here's what's going to happen. This is not subject to your interpretation. If you want something or there's something that you like, we can have that discussion, but you guys aren't going to bicker over these things. And I think that when you do that, you take that power away from them as far as thinking that they're in control of this situation. And that's the problem because they all want something different or think they're entitled to something different. If it's your funds, your life's work, you should be in control of how this thing plays out. And you can do so with a proper estate plan.
And you can at least explain if one child's getting something over somebody else. There are children, like I'm sure, Danny, I know you work with clients where they're giving a lot to certain kids that are having problems now, and some are self-sufficient. So they're saying, well, when I pass, I'm going to give more to that child that I didn't give to. Right?
The problem that I find with that sometimes, though, is that child is still they've done well. And the other one is they're like, well, still need some help. So,
I don't think they cut him out. I think that they change the proportion. But again, you're bringing up an issue where if you don't have this conversation with both of them, say I have a brother and a sister, and the brother always needs cash, and the sister is very self-sufficient. I know what's coming when mom passes. Because she told me what she's going to do. And I said, well, have you had a conversation with your children about it? No, I haven't. You haven't. They're going to converse about it. Oh, so you want even more money, even though you've been getting money all along and I've been getting nothing. I mean, I can hear all the issues that are going to arise that's going to cause a rift between this brother and sister, because there's already issues or animosity that, why isn't my brother? Why isn't he not working? Why is he consistently taking from mom? What if she lives longer and needs money for long-term care? Why are we doing this? So it's already causing an issue that nobody is addressing.
Well, I think that's the problem, is that so many times parents continue to support their adult children and they're bankrupting their future, essentially.
They will. We've seen studies about this, right? That they're jeopardizing their own.
But they're also haven't taught their children how to stand on their own 2 feet. And then it becomes a bigger problem, because what happens if you run out of money? You're going to go live with them? Probably not. They can't support themselves.
Right.
So how are they going to support you as well? So that's where I think we run into more trouble. Now, I do see, and depending on the family, I think it's okay. You can do these things, but you do need to be very open.
You got to
write these things down.
Right.
But I have some families I've seen where if they give the brother money, they may also give the sister money that doesn't necessarily need it.
Yeah.
They say, listen, we want to be fair and equitable with this. So I'm going to give you money and you're going to get money. And
that's
do with what you please.
It's probably the better way to do it
But not everybody can afford it.
No, I understand. But if you're in that, instead of giving, say, child A, say a gift of $10,000, and I'm not going to give to child B because child B is self-sufficient, you might as well just give child B the same if you can do it, because maybe they donate it. Maybe they put it towards college. Most likely child B is going to save it.
Correct.
For some sort of future goal. So that's fine. It's not like child B can't use it and is not going to appreciate the gift. Because if they're working hard and they're self-sufficient, a gift is going to just help them. Maybe they put it towards a children's college fund, whatever it is. So, yeah, I agree with that. But again, I think what we're bringing up most important is this conversation doesn't happen. And there's this seething animosity that erupts when the person giving the money passes, because no one's really ever addressed it, especially if there's a change in the estate planning documents that gives more to one than the other. So these are the things we want to make sure that you're talking about. And it all starts with clearing emotional hurdles that we're going to talk about on this Saturday, September 30th event. So you go to Real Investment Advice, sign up, be about an hour of your day, give you a different perspective. Again, someone that you feel we've been talking about. Oh, that is my mom. Oh, that's my sister. That's my friend Bill. Have them sit in. They will gain a lot from it.
I'm sure you know somebody who could.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, we know, we're talking about estate planning, the Trump tax cuts The tax cuts of 2017 doubled the base amount individuals could give away without paying estate taxes for $10 million. And these cuts are going to expire in 2026. So you're seeing a mad scramble of wealthy investors moving money. Again, even if you don't have that kind of wealth, there is going to be this focus on the estate tax exemptions. And what I'm concerned about, Danny, we'll talk about this on the other side of the break, that we're going back to maybe estate tax exemptions where many people are going to get hit.
A lot of people will be hit.
Based on their total estate. So when we get back, we're going to talk about this here on Financial Fitness Friday. Stay tuned.
The Real Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Two things in life you cannot avoid: death and taxes. Be better prepared for both with our next Candid Coffee on progression planning for a life well lived. Saturday, September 30th, with Danny Ratliff and Richard Rosso. We'll share how to prepare emotionally, financially, and pragmatically. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Progression Planning Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Saturday, September 30th, realinvestmentadvice.com.
Health and financial security touches everyone within your organization. Offering benefits for all doesn't need to be complicated. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, Senior Benefits Consultant at RIA Advisors. RIA Benefits provides independent expertise to find solutions that speak to the mission of your business, the culture you want to establish, and the budget you are able to work within. Book a free consultation with me at realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, and we'll find a solution that takes care of your most important asset, your people. realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, realinvestmentadvice.com.
Can't catch the whole show now? Listen to our podcast later at realinvestmentadvice.com.
I was fired up yesterday over something one of my kids did. My daughter got a ticket in Sealy for driving too fast. So I'm all fired up over this.
The Real Investment Show podcast.
It is very common in my household because my wife has ADD, so she's constantly having to do something, right? So it's very normal for us to have a full-blown, even an argument, right? And she'll be like washing dishes and doing other stuff. So it's I'm completely used to her not looking at me when we're having a conversation.
She's multitasking.
She's always multitasking.
The Real Investment Show podcast. Same show, your schedule.
So I come in, I'm all fired up over this because she apparently let my daughter get away with this. But, look, I don't yell. I don't raise my voice. I state my case very calmly. I use facts. I used figures, and she didn't respond. She just kept doing it. I was like, I won this argument. And then she reached up underneath her hair and she pulled out her earbud and she says, "Yes, dear, did you say something to me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I asked you what was for dinner."
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Manage risk and volatility rather than trying to manage gains. You don't have to be right all the time. Long-term investing success is a 70% gain. Let us help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Real Investment Show podcasts are now available from Stitcher Smart Radio at Stitcher.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets. And unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA Advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. It's a quick and easy application. Just simply click Ask a Question at realinvestmentadvice.com or give us a call at 855-RIA-PLAN. That's realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show YouTube channel has all our videos ready for your easy access. Now with the new and improved Before the Bell reports, plus each day's radio shows. Subscribe and bookmark our YouTube channel at realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
We're back.
Every button I push this morning is working against
I just
me.
see Brent fighting literally with the board.
Every button. Got to push it twice to make it respond.
Oh my goodness.
Thank goodness it's Friday.
He looked like the president trying to maneuver a coffee maker or something. He really was trying to navigate something. Man, woo. From the Full Circle Department, Danny, BlackRock, State Street among money managers closing ESG funds. More ESG funds in U.S. closed in 2023 than in the 3 prior years. Surprised?
Nope. But see, you said BlackRock?
Uh-huh.
The biggest proponent of ESG?
Closing them down.
Wonder what could have went wrong.
I have no idea. I'm just surprised it took so long.
So was it not the money-making endeavor? I mean, what
Nope.
was the size
Yeah,
of these
it was
funds?
just not the money making. I don't know. I don't know, but obviously it was not a good path for them. So,
Or you, anybody. I mean,
so you have a lot of wealthy Americans that are giving money away, right? They gave away $182.6 billion in 2021, more than double the year before. That's from the Internal Revenue Statistics. Through trusts, charity, big charitable giving that's been going on through this process as well. And then if you have a net worth of over 10 million, obviously, or a family that is, you're going to have to make sure that you're doing your estate planning again, or at least trying to come up with a gift strategy or a way to freeze the valuation of assets and move them into other vehicles, depending upon the assets that they are. So this tax savings over time could be significantly larger. So there are about 1.5 million Americans with 10 million to 50 million in net worth. None of us, because we're here. But Brett wouldn't be finagling with that board this morning. He'd be finagling with like pancakes. Gold plated. So, obviously direct gifts of cash or securities is a simple, right? 17,000 tax-free for 2023, 18,000 probably in 2024. So you see a lot of people that are aware of giving gifts, but then obviously through trusts, dynasty trusts. But this impact, what I want to try to get to, Danny, this impact of the expiration of the Trump tax cuts can also hurt mom and pop and people that don't have 10 million to 50 million. That is why we've been talking about the benefits of Roth conversions through this process. You don't have to have this kind of wealth. Yes, from an estate planning perspective, you always have to be concerned that the estate tax exemptions get chipped away at over time, that all of a sudden you realize with the value of your 401k and your home that, holy moly, I have an exemption, my wife has an exemption, or my husband, and I'm not using them properly. We used to have to do a lot of this AB trust planning. We used to call that above ground, below ground trust planning in the 90s, right? When we did have to worry. But, I don't know. This becomes like this political football, and I have a feeling it will again when these tax cuts look to expire.
So these numbers are adjusted for inflation each year.
Yeah.
So by 2025, the anticipation is that a household, a husband and wife are going to have, or you're going to have $28 million that you can shelter from estate taxes and gift tax.
Both exemptions, right?
Correct.
Yep.
And that's slated currently to go down to about half of that.
Right.
And now that's not going to include the majority of Americans.
Of course.
But it can include a lot of people who maybe, we know people. I have clients who on paper,
might affect you if you have
they're
wealthy.
extremely wealthy.
Yeah,
But
well,
it's closely held businesses.
Yep, right.
It is
Yep.
real estate,
Yep.
land, farms, ranches. They may not make a ton of money or have a ton of money sitting in a bank account.
but their assets are.
Yeah. So then you get into a problem of, okay, now do you have to liquidate everything, right?
Yeah, I've got the family farm or ranch, right? And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, these exemptions drop, and I haven't planned properly, and now estate taxes are due within 9 months. What do I have to do?
We're selling the properties, what most people are doing. And now it's not the intent of, we're talking about estate planning a bit ago. Now the problem is that how do you pass it on to your kids? How do you pass it on and have that generational type of legacy? It's very difficult at that point. And so this is where I think it's going to be a bigger problem than most anticipate. And I know where you were going is that just the tax brackets are going to be condensed. Rates are going to go up a tad bit if we just revert back to the old tax code. And now that with the Roth conversion, you're potentially paying less on taxes than you will in the future. And then you get the growth, right? So the one thing that's awesome about the Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA is that you have a 10-year period that your non-spousal beneficiaries must take these funds out. So they can do so and pay taxes at maybe a potential higher tax bracket. What are they currently in? Are they in peak earnings years? Do taxes just go up and there's no really wiggle room around it? It's potentially. So I think that, for many people, this is a smart move. It's not for everybody. I think you need to run an analysis, understand it.
Yeah, you do. But but to your point, Danny, there are people that on paper might have more than they think because of properties and other things. So if you're not doing that sophisticated estate planning now, whether it's family limited partnerships or trust planning or defective trust planning, whatever it is, if you're not doing these things and you're on the fence, you better get to it. You better get to it. So it's going to be important for you to understand that. And not only that, you don't have to be in that bracket and then realize the 22 and 24% brackets are going to change. They're not going to be you're not going to see these marginal tax rates as generous as they were. I ran analysis when this Trump tax cut came out for a few families, and I'm not a tax advisor, but these were simple examples. But I found out that these were people that were, I don't know, making $100,000 a year. They were just normal people like you and I. And they had children, and with the tax credits and all that, they were saving money under the Trump tax cuts. These weren't wealthy individuals by any means. I mean, they weren't hurting, but they weren't this tax cuts for the wealthy narrative that you hear. These were people with 3 kids and, bringing in 6 figures, 2 professional people, and, could be your neighbor. They were saving $3,000 to $4,000 on their taxes because of the Trump tax cut. So you are going to be affected by this. You don't have to be uber wealthy. Also, it might change based on these tax brackets to Danny's point earlier about IRA distributions for your children. That's why Roth is going to be more important, because even though they have to take out the money over 10 years, it's tax-free. So
but also, you don't have to take the RMDs further down the road
Right.
if you're doing them at a younger age. Pre-RMD age, required minimum distribution. So for any of those that you don't know, that's the amount at 72. Well, actually now 73 with the new Secure Act 2.0, that you must take a distribution. And so the idea is that they make you take these required minimum distributions so they get their tax dollars. They would like for you to, have a foot in the grave and $1 in your pocket because they want everything taxed.
That was a country song, wasn't it?
Yeah, it should be.
A foot in the grave, $1 in your pocket. If you come after me, I'm gonna sock it. I don't know. I gotta think of something. Sounds like something like Luke Nelson would record.
Sounds like a Dwight Yoakam song.
Man, have you seen Dwight Yoakam lately? I couldn't even recognize him. I mean, obviously these people are getting old. But
He's turned into a great character actor on TV.
he is. He was actually been a good actor for a long time. But I guess I was surprised on how much he's aged, because I'm still listening to some of his stuff from the 90s and all that, right? And I was like, is that Dwight Yoakam? That old guy over there? Oh, my gosh. This aging thing isn't for the weak, is it?
Nor our taxes.
Neither is that board.
Yeah.
This morning. So regardless of how much family wealth you have, these tax cuts are going to affect you, which means tax planning is going to be very important, or it's going to be very important for your family to get off the fence and make this work. And that's where this process comes into play. And Danny, I don't think, regardless of the administration coming in, whether it's Republican or Democrat, with what we've done, I just don't see how you keep these.
No, I don't think
how you keep these tax cuts. I just think you have to let them go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see this as something that's going to last. I just don't.
Well, it's one. Everybody wants to. Lifelong politicians want to remain in office. So what's easier than raising taxes? Just letting this expire.
Yeah, because you don't
This
have to do
sunsets.
anything, right?
Yeah, and it goes up automatically. Now, at some point, I do think they'll have to be more aggressive. But at the moment, this will probably do the trick.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
But, a bill 2 years ago was much more aggressive than what we would revert back to.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's off the table. And at some point, depending on who gets in office, and at some point, it really won't matter, Rich. I mean, at some point,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
it's not going to matter at all. It's just going to be a function of math.
Right. And it's going to come obviously when it's too late, right?
Correct.
We don't want to work on anything.
Why would we do that? Look towards the future.
It'll work itself out. When we get back, we're going to talk about inflation and your financial plan, why it's so very important. Get back.
Daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Two things in life you cannot avoid: death and taxes. Be better prepared for both with our next Candid Coffee on progression planning for a life well lived. Saturday, September 30th, with Danny Ratliff and Richard Rosso. We'll share how to prepare emotionally, financially, and pragmatically. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Progression Planning Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Saturday, September 30th, realinvestmentadvice.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets. And unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. Get started right now at the website, realinvestmentadvice.com, or simply call our toll-free number, 855-RIA-PLAN at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Small businesses are now being challenged by the lack of employees and how to attract and recruit the best employees. To get the better employee, you'll have to offer a better package. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, RIA Advisors Retirement Plan Consultant. Don't assume a 401k plan is too costly or complicated for your small business to offer. Let us show you how to make the most of an affordable and effective plan that will deliver true value for your business and your employees. Call me toll-free at 855-RIA-PLAN or online at realinvestmentadvice.com. That's realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. A passive investment portfolio requires active risk management. It's not a choice, it's necessity. Diversification doesn't protect against risk of loss. Let us actively help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
So in case anybody doesn't know, autumn arrives Saturday at 1:50 a.m. CDT, but not available in Texas. Makes me sad. Makes me very sad. My favorite season, and I don't get it.
But you were just traveling. You got a little bit of it, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I got a little. Well,
Yeah, I don't
there were
wanna
not a
hear
lot
it.
of leaves.
Never mind.
No, there weren't a lot of leaves changing yet in Vermont, but
You could get to October.
but it
right?
will. Oh yeah, it was coming in fast. You got that fall sky, those layered clouds. It was cool. Cool to watch storms on the mountains. It's really different. Home of maple syrup that I was happy to bring back to Brent.
It's larrapin
You know
good.
what's amazing is there's these families, family farms from 1790, 1810. They're still in the family, and they're still producing maple products.
Yeah, maybe not for long. Hope they have cash and a good insurance policy.
You trying to be on the global warming, the whole thing's coming to an end kind of thing?
No, I'm talking about taxes, Rich.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we literally just talked about this for 20 minutes, and you go off on
that's like 10 years ago
global
already.
warming.
Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Downer.
No, that was Rich this time.
No, but that's right. That's taxes. Yeah, you're right.
Now you just bring up something else.
If you don't have this family farm in a family limited partnership, or just think, because you're living in La La Land, that nothing's going to happen to you. And it is a little bit like La La Land. Haley goes, my daughter was there with me, and she takes a deep breath. She goes, oh, Daddy, what's that smell? I'm like, that's fresh air, babe. It's fresh air. It smells a little bit like cinnamon, and yeah, that's what you call fresh air. Mm-hmm. You're not used to that. Yeah, nice.
Sometimes but so it will require some additional planning.
It will,
from an estate planning perspective, and also typically you see these families purchase some type of life insurance to pay for that bill, so things don't have to be liquidated, especially if you don't have those funds readily available.
Life insurance is a big part of that too, right? To create immediate liquidity.
Correct.
Because even if, say, you've done all the right estate planning, you still could be owing estate tax, just maybe not the amount that you would have, right? And a good tax planner, we work with a few really good tax planners, they'll say, well, without this is your tax bill. With this is your tax bill. It's a lot better, but I still got to fill the hole, fill the gap. It's like when we talk about Medicare, right? You need supplemental. Supplemental to your estate is life insurance. That can be used, but that as well, Danny, right, can be placed in the trust.
Yeah. Well, you typically would set up an irrevocable life insurance trust or a SLAT, like a spousal lifetime access trust.
I mean, you fell there and slipped.
There's a number of different ways.
Yes.
I mean, that you could utilize or put it in some type of vehicle to give your estate protection further down the road.
Absolutely.
It really determines on accessibility, how you want to set that up. A really good estate planner can visit with you on that, because like Rich said earlier, we are not CPAs. We are also not attorneys. So,
but these are primarily good concepts and things that you need to bring up with your estate planning attorney. Or if you need a referral from us, reach out. We have some good people. We
work with many different people. But I think it really determines on what's best for each individual, what they're looking to accomplish, and really what it comes down to as well, Rich, is that you need a financial plan to understand the inventory of assets, where everything is.
Yes.
How they all work together, and then what's the accessibility or the liquidity problems or potential that you may have in the event of a death. And,
Right.
I think that's the problem with much of this, and where you have something that's just not liquid, and it won't be. It doesn't give you income, or it doesn't give you the accessibility to access the equity from it. Then you're stuck.
Absolutely.
Or your heirs are stuck.
It's just part of an overall solid estate plan. All these facets and holes that need to be filled in if you want to make sure more money goes to the people you love or the charities you love versus the government. I read, Danny, these terrible, like Aretha Franklin and all these stars that have no estate plan and how much money they owe the government as opposed to all their hard work, at least even to a charity. It just makes me almost want to puke. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? All that you've made, you don't even have a charity, like at least a charity to get the money versus the government? It's just, I don't know. Really doesn't make any sense. I understand the emotional hurdles, but that makes me sad. So when we talk about your plans, we talk about inflation, because inflation will affect you. And obviously inflation affects us more now than many generations I've even faced before in the past. And back in, I guess it was, Danny, 2019, we went ahead and we increased our base inflation rate in our plans from 2 to 2.5%. And actually the creator of the software came out way after we did and said they're raising the base rate. So your financial advisor has to be a student of inflation. and understand that inflation can be variable over time and create risk for your financial plan. We study inflation, and then we look at inflation per an individual's goal. Are they buying an automobile? Healthcare expenses, long-term care. I have been personally hesitant to raise some of the inflation on, say, for example, vehicles and other items, as opposed to just the base rate. And the reason is I want to give it time. I want to see where we are in a year or so. My original thought in 2019 was that some inflation was not going to be transitory and that we would have higher inflation for an extended period. And that's why I raised the base rate to 2.5%. But that can wreak havoc on your financial plan depending on how you're saving, how much you're spending, the types of ways you spend in retirement. In other words, if you are spending on an inflation-adjusted basis, which means every year you want $10,000, then you want $10,400, $10,700, $11,000. Now, I'm not saying in reality it works that way. If you're taking distributions from a retirement account and so forth, you may not raise your withdrawal every year, but you will over time. And then there's a period of your life where you're actually spending less money as you age. There's a lot of work out there. David Blanchett used to be at Morningstar. David Blanchett wrote some great stuff about the retirement smile. You know, there's going to be a period of time where you're older and you're just not spending as much money. You're not unhealthy. You're not unhealthy. You know, you have spending at the active years at the beginning. That's the one side of the smile. Then you sort of level off, right? Your spending sort of bows a bit, and you're on a steady trajectory, but you're not really spending more every year. You're eating out less and so forth. And then, of course, the expenses increase toward the end of your life from healthcare. So you have to look at practicality also when inflation is higher about how you spend. And we have enough people in distribution mode that I've been working with for at least 20 years that I now know and see how spending works in real life versus just say, hey, yeah, every year you're going to inflation index. And right, Danny? It's you got to look at the practicality in the retirement income strategy based on reality versus every year I'm just going to take more money, even when I'm 85, 86, 87. I don't know a lot of people 85, 86, 87 that are spending any more money than they have in the past, except for maybe healthcare. But they're not, again, they may not be unhealthy, but they're not in these active go-go years and traveling everywhere and doing all these things.
Yeah, I've never had a client in doing this 20 years who said, all right, it's January 1st. I need a pay raise.
Yeah, right.
You know, usually what it happens, and we've talked about this before, is that every 3, 4, 5 years we're updating the plan annually, but at some point somebody's coming and saying, yeah, I don't feel like money's going as far. All right, let's talk about it. What does that look like? But I also have it on the other end too, where they say, hey, we're not spending as much. We're not traveling as much. Money's kind of just building up in the savings account. We don't have to pull it out. Can we leave it in the account or reduce the distribution? So, you know, you see it both ways, but I've never had anybody just say, all right, automatically every year, let's increase that distribution.
Matter of fact, you know, we've been big proponents of guardrails, right? So if you have years where you've done really well in markets versus your normal withdrawal rate, take a little more. Give yourself a raise, like a bonus. Take the trip, buy the car. It did that a lot, Danny, in 2013 or so, where we had clients through the financial crisis where we said, listen, can we cut your withdrawal rate or use an alternate source? Can we tap a home equity line of credit? Can we borrow from your life insurance policy and cut your spending, or at least not increase your spending this year? We did that in some cases to leave the portfolios alone.
Yep.
But in 2013, we were way above the normal withdrawal rate. So we took that money, we took that raise, and we paid off actually the home equity line of credit, or we put the money back into our life insurance policy just in case we needed it again, or we bought the cars or took the vacations. And these, you know, you have to have, if you have variable assets, you have to have a flexible spending. But inflation can also be variable over time. So you better understand how your financial advisor is treating inflation in your plan. How much work and effort are they putting into each goal and the variability and the students of inflation? What resources are they using to study it, to implement it in your plan? All right, that's all we got. We're closing it out. Glad you've been here with us today. Hope you have a great weekend, everybody. Back on Monday. Take care. You've been with Financial Fitness Friday. Thanks again.